So the first thing we're going to do is get some lead wire on there. So I have this 030 lead wire, and I'm going to wrap it 10 or 15 times around the hook shank here. So add some weight, help it get down to the column a little bit quicker. And just like so, nice and tight on itself there. From there, once we're nice and secure with our wire, we can add our thread. I'm using some UTC 140 denier, and this is the olive color. So we'll just start our thread right on top. This is mainly to secure this wire in place more than anything right now. And we'll work our way back. We can trim out that excess piece. And we'll just cover it up here real quickly, make sure that it's not going to move around on us. Watch out for that hook point. And then we're going to work back to where that barb is. Didn't pinch the barb on this one, although I usually do. I'll end up pitching this barb. Now we're going to use some Mylar body tubing with this. This is the Flashaboo Minnow body. And this is the large size that I'm using today. So we're going to cut to length what we need here, so just a little bit past that hook shank, maybe a hook point or a hook gape just past your hook shank, a little bit extra material to work with. And then you're just going to take all those center fibers, loosen them up and pull them right out of there. The rope that's contained on the inside here. Okay, so you're left with just the Mylar tubing, a hollow tubing there. We're going to take this and we're going to just slide it right over the hook shank and out the back so that we have a little bit sticking out. You can kind of work it back and split the material so that it goes around the hook wire, just like so. Get it so that it's all worked backwards. And then we're going to take our thread and we're just going to do a couple of quick loose wraps, make sure we're in the right place, and then we can cinch that down and lock it in. Just like so. Quick and easy there. If you want to add a little glue at this point, you can to help keep it in place. I tend to do that after tying in my rabbit strip, which is the next step. So we have our olive rabbit zonker here, and I'm just going to measure a little bit past. I do 2 hook shanks typically, is how long I like mine to be. So you can measure that out just like so. If you're going to err on the long side, because you can always trim it down after you tie it in. And I'm just going to wet this material slightly, make it a little bit easier to work with here. And we're going to find our tie-in point. So we're going to lay it on top. Before I do this, I'm actually going to clip out a little bit. I have too much Mylar tubing here. So I'm going to shorten this up a little bit and clip it just past where the hook eye is. And that'll give me a better idea as to where I'm going to lay my rabbit strip, because I want that going all the way up to the hook eye. But we're going to tie it in right back here. So we'll lay it on top, kind of measure it out there, make sure everything's in the right position. And then we can split our hair where we decided to tie it in and capture it down. Maybe do a couple of loose wraps and just check and make sure that everything is in the right spot there. Looks like we're good. So once you're happy with it, a couple of wraps to make sure it's secured. And then we'll pull that hide back, sneak in front of it, Give a couple of locking wraps, and then we're going to actually whip finish this part here. Be a little tricky whip finishing over the body. If you have a Magnum whip finisher, it can make it a little easier, but you kind of just sneak one in and then slide over and back and get your whip finish down there. So we're going to trim that out now, and I'm going to zap-a-gap it. You can do some UV finish if you prefer to use UV. Any type of super glue as well. Just keep those thread wraps in place. I'm going to sneak a little bit down in on top as well. Let that dry for a second. All right, once our glue dries on the back end, we're going to get this Zonker out of the way. If you got a little chip clip or something at home, you can use that, hold it back. And then I'm going to take the Mylar, kind of like a Chinese finger trap, and we're just going to compress it down a little bit so I can sneak in my thread and start some locking wraps there. And we can trim out our excess. And then we're going to secure this Mylar tubing in place. So we're going to kind of hold it in place, and just like we did on the back, do a couple of loose wraps. Make sure we get all the material, and we're going to cinch it down in the position we want. I like doing it about a hook eye back from the actual hook eye, just to give myself a little room to work with. I'll secure it down. Some extra locking wraps there, and then we can come back in. I got some sharper scissors here. Come back in and trim out all this excess material. Really easy fly to tie. It's a go-to pattern though for a lot of streamer situations. Lead wire helps to get it down. It's not an overly heavy pattern. Keeps it weighted in the middle, which is nice, instead of being front heavy like a lot of the cone head patterns are. And that Mylar tubing flash underneath just adds an awesome aspect to this fly for me, so one that I really enjoy. We're just going to cover it all up now. Give ourselves a nice clean thread base here, because we're going to come back in and wrap some schlappen as our collar. And for that I'm going to use the MFC barred schlappen. This is the olive black. So we'll pick our feather. Don't need it to be too long, so I don't use necessarily the whole feather. I'll kind of trim down to some of the shorter areas. And then just prep it like you normally would a hackle feather. Have a tip there to tie in. And we'll do that on one side here. And then we can go ahead and wrap this hackle forward. Give myself a little more room. Call that good. Go to secure it off. And we'll get all of those fibers to lay back and just wrap over them a few times. Keep them laying down on the body there. And clip out our excess. And we can go ahead and bring our rabbit hide forward. So I'm gonna make sure all these are kind of laid down towards the side for the most part. And then we'll bring this rabbit strip forward and lay it down right into position where we're going to secure it. I always peel off just some of the hair to give myself kind of a nice hide there to tie in onto. So we'll come up and secure that down. sure you get a good chunk of it. We don't want this part coming out on us. And some firm wraps to keep that in place. And then we'll just thread wrap over top of it here, securing everything down, creating a nice thread head for this pattern. And we'll give it a whip finish. And I'm going to add some glue to this head as well, make it a little more durable. Fish will work also on a lot of different species. It's a great trout fly, but it converts easily over to bass, you know, pike, lots of warm water species as well. Anything that's going to chase a little bait fish around. I'll just put a healthy amount of glue on this just to kind of give it that lacquered look, even though it is just the super glue. And that way this Zap Gap dries nice and quickly. And I did err on the long side with my tail, so I'm just gonna maybe pull it back over and trim this down a little bit. Something you could also do on the water if you wanted to start with a little bit of a larger profile. Leave your tail long, and then you can always come back in, have some scissors in your pack or your vest. Come back in and trim it down a little bit if you feel like you need to. That's all there is to the good old Rabbit Zonker. Tied in a lot of color variations. This is pretty much a straight olive variation with that pearl underbody. It's a very fishy fly.